Hello there, my name is John and I am a nobody. If it's possible that Amsterdam was suffering from a kind of hangover from the hippie days of the 60s, then Hamburg was suffering from a kind of hangover from the glory days of having the Beatles play on the Reeperbahn in the late 60s. All before my time, but there are some important people to remember today, and two of them are bass players, unfortunately. So I finally got to meet Klaus Voormann, who was very famous at the time. He'd worked a lot with John Lennon, and thank you very much to the man who sent me the book that Klaus Voormann wrote. He was a bit like me, but a lot more successful. So he was a bass player, but he was also a writer and a painter. He designed the cover for the Beatles record, Revolver, if you remember that one. And that's probably what he's most famous for. So I had a meeting with him, just a one-to-one meeting. I don't remember anything about the meeting. I just remember the end of the meeting, which I would like to share with you. But to come back to what I was talking about, the great Thomas Sowell, who is an academic in the States, once suggested that you could split the human race into two parts, and he was not wrong. But I would suggest that you can actually split the human race in the West into two different songs. One song would be Imagine by John Lennon, and the other song would be the musical reply to John Lennon and that song by Steely Dan. Now, either you love the one or you love the other. Either you believe in that Imagine thing, or you believe in Steely Dan's response, which was, by the way, called Only a Fool Would Say That. Now, Klaus Voormann had played on Imagine, and he later went on to become a member of John Lennon's band when he had the Whaley woman with him and had already left the Beatles. So if there's anybody that knows about that time, it's Klaus Voormann, and it was quite something to meet him. So I went into his office and we were talking about some business thing, I don't remember what it was, a musical thing. And I mentioned that it was very sad that a certain bass player, Eric Clapton's bass player, had died. He'd been with Eric Clapton for years and years. The whole band had. They were all from Tulsa in Oklahoma. And the hit song Eric Clapton wrote, Living on Tulsa Time, was actually inspired by the musicians he was playing with. I always forget his name, the bass player, which is weird because he played on Eric Clapton's very successful comeback album, the Ocean Boulevard record, which was wonderful, and I bought it, and I just loved that record to death. And I finally got to discover the great Bob Marley, because Clapton had done a cover of I Shot the Sheriff, which featured on that record. Anyway, I've got to look probably, or try and get it together, what the bass player was called. I've written it down somewhere. Let's have a look. Yeah, Carl Radl was his name. Carl Radl, another German name. He was a lovely player, a beautiful player, and very important. You know, he played with Delaney and Bonnie and all these people. A lot of you might have forgotten. But he was a great bass player, and I was sat there with Klaus Voormann talking about music stuff, and at the end I said, it's a great shame about Carl. And he said, what are you talking about? And I told him that he'd sadly passed away at quite a young age. It was all to do with, you know, excessive use of certain substances. But it was sad. And Klaus Voormann got up, and without a single word to me, he just left the room. I didn't know at the time that Klaus Voormann and Carl Radl had actually been very close friends. And he'd only heard about his unfortunate demise by me telling him. And he was informed by a nobody, you know. That was very sad. But I wanted to share that with you, and I hope, as always, that you're doing well and you're taking care of yourself and those you love. And I'll see you in the next one. So, bye for now, and Tschüssikowski. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment.